Hello, everyone. We are not playing music tonight because we have a really good show planned out to talk about the Cosmos Connection. This is TJ Mars ET Radio, and we are sponsored by American Communications Online. I've invited a mad painter, also known as Thomas R. Becker, tonight. He is an author, an artist, and radio host, and member of my club. Per his agreement, we have a mutual agreement for the ACO Club, as well as Dan Cooper, who is actually not that new. I would say at least a year old now. You got to be in our group for about a year before you get to play with us. But Dan Cooper, I'm really excited to have him on. He's actually, I believe we're going to let him introduce himself. I believe he's from California, and a mad painter has agreed to help produce, and so we can bring him in here. And Janet Lessin is on the board tonight, but she's not here. Nor is Ken R. Johnston, astronaut with 3,000 hours in the space module, but he's over doing another show over in the Albuquerque area and just returned from the Living Expo. But he will be doing the Alien Expo in August in Knoxville, so I'm going to try to get over there, the Alien Expo. So look it up, folks, over in Knoxville, Tennessee, coming up. And we are basically paranormal researchers, and Tommy Hawksblood's joined us tonight, Thomas Denisi out in New Jersey. So let me get this lineup started. Mad, I'm going to start with you and Tommy and Dan. So let's get you going here. Thomas and Mad Baker, will you do the honors, please? Introduce yourself.
I'm commonly known as a mad painter, and I'm a radio talk show host at Revolution.radio, as long as also being a manager and a producer over there for Sasha and Janet Lessin for their shows. I'm an artist. I've got a couple of books out there. I'm kind of a would-be artist or would-be author, but I'm learning. That's about it.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mad. You're very humble. Okay, Tommy in Hawaii, introduce yourself, please. Thomas Hawksblood Sinisi, introduce yourself, please. Take yourself off mute.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Greetings.
Go ahead.
Well, Tommy Hawksblood here, calling from the Big Island of Hawaii. There's a lot going on here. The chemtrails are being sprayed every day now for some reason. Lots going on. I'm trying to keep notes of everything. Earthquakes that we never had before. So it's rocking and rolling around where I live. But it's always a pleasure to be on. So I'll give it back to TJ.
Thank you. Tommy's been with me 7 years and a mad 6 years, coming up in June. And I think it was November 2012 actually with a mad, but anyway, roughly 7 years with the guys. But the newbie in the last year, we're going to have him introduce himself. He's a friend of Janet Lessin. She found him wandering around somewhere on the planet. Dan Cooper of California. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, TJ. Thanks for having me on. I'm an inventor. I invent free energy generators, motors, and engines in order to save the planet, save humanity from slavery. That's the purpose of doing that. I also, and what people are most interested in on these shows is the fact that I had spent 20 years in the United States military, United States Air Force secret space program contingent. All my 20 and back years were spent in combat with a contingent known as Dark Fleet.
Okay, thank
TJ.
you. This is interesting, an interesting group of guys, but we're mostly paranormal researchers, folks, and I don't know why Janet Lessin isn't here. And what I'm going to do is put myself on mute in a second because, Mad, I'll give you the con and list roundtable. Dan is new to our group, so I'm going to ask him if he would fill us in because, Mad, I need you to help narrate because run the board. What it is I'm trying to put together our alien contact organization under ACO Dan, just so you know the acronym, with the Ascension Center organization, which is more spiritual metaphysical group I started back in the 80s. So I'm combining Ascension Center org with Allied Command oracles and the Ascension Center organization. Plus, just yesterday, officially, even though Tommy and I started over a year ago, but we didn't do much with it, my daughter was dying, so it's the UFO Association. But I'm going to try to combine all those together. So it's a good thing you came on tonight so we can go over how you foresee what you spoke about me working way up there, and Ahmad came in at the last part of the show. But I would like to have us each, just for a few minutes, talk about each level. But Dan, go ahead and give us your idea of what you think is going on, and introduce, sort of go over what I've got written here about you working with this gentleman, the Chinese, and helping them in business and in this interplanetary fleet, because I would like to discuss all the many levels of the universe and down. And I think we're starting on the planet and working up. But I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to go on mute so I can try to locate Janet. Say, Ahmed, you just stay on here now.
Oh, I ain't going nowhere.
Okay, you asked a whole bunch of questions, but people are concerned about what's going to happen to us. People. I did unmute. Are you there?
Yeah, we can hear you. That was something she done.
Oh, okay. People are very concerned because, and more people who are listening to the alternative media and whistleblowers. I don't consider myself a whistleblower, but that's what we've been labeled as. So a lot of people come forward, and a lot of people throughout the world are listening. A lot of powerful people in high positions in all different governments are listening, and they all are they want to know what's going to happen to us, what's going on. Why is the technology being suppressed? Why is it continuing to be suppressed? We've had free energy technology in the late 1800s. Tesla did install free energy motors in cars. And he did it all the way up to 1927. He was installing free energy motors in cars. He did it more than once. His first one was in 1896. Drove a car around all day on nothing but a 6-volt battery. He had a 27 version that was a little bit better. But that's a free energy motor, and a free energy motor will operate a vehicle 30 years straight without ever having to fuel the vehicle. You don't even have to charge the battery. Because there's enough energy coming off the system to recharge the battery. If you use a battery, we don't use batteries anymore for this purpose. But people want to know, why is the technology continuing to be suppressed, especially since the United States is directing and has made so much progress and has all these colonies. Now we're seeing the moonshots that the Chinese have provided from the December 13th landing on the moon, drone landing. And then in orbit, they took pictures of the lakes and the streams and the rivers under these glass domes, 25 miles in diameter, and everybody's seeing these pictures. And now they're seeing this is real, so everybody's afraid. What's going to happen to us? Originally, Eisenhower in the early 50s had traded all of the humanity on this planet, not just the United States. He traded all of humanity for higher technology, for technology. And what I mean by traded is we were all committed to slavery on other planets. And the plan was to bring this planet to the brink of extinction by purposely causing global warming. And then the aliens were going to come and say, we'll save you, but we can't restore the planet until you leave, and you can come to our planet in the meantime. But it's going to take 1,000 years for us to restore it. But if you come to our planet, you'll be fine. We'll take care of you. You'll have a great life. The major problem and it's not so bad because economic slavery here is much, much worse than slavery on these other planets. These are pristine planets you were supposed to be shipped off to. You're not going to be shipped off to these planets because the spirit being showed up and they put an outer barrier around our solar system so they can't ship us out anymore. But anyway, the plan was to ship us out, and the problem with that is all the planets that we were going to be shipped out to, they're all telepathic species, which means that if you think a bad thought against them, then you've committed a crime that you have to be punished for. And if you conspire against them in your mind, they execute you immediately. So yeah,
well, Dan, I got a question for you.
Sure.
How can one man be able to sell out the whole planet without the planet's permission?
It wasn't a single person. He had consulted with all the authorities during the period that were involved. The Trilateral Commission, England. He did not consult with Russia or China. They had basically decided to.
I don't believe he consulted with me either.
No, you weren't. That you weren't. I don't think that you were an adult then, but I could be wrong.
Well, you get my point. I just can't see how, it just sounds weird that he had that kind of authority over the planet.
Slow down, Thomas. He actually does have legal authority, and I'm not going to go over the legalities of it, but he did have legal authority to do that. Anyway, that question was asked of me by the NSA agent. I'm sorry, I asked the NSA agent the same question, why'd you do that? And he said, we really didn't have a choice. They were so far, all the aliens that were here that had us under control were so far millions of years technologically advanced us. We had no other choice but to try to get some of the technology and then see what we could do from there. And the fact of the matter is, Lockheed Martin's special team under Marilyn Hewson, Boyd Bushman was on the team. They had actually created the 8th Force. And when you do that, you bring the spear beings into town. And that was the reason that they had put the barrier around our planet. Because we had developed the 8th Force. The spear beings administer the 8th Force. It's the most powerful material force in the universe. And so they control it very strictly, and that's why they put us on lockdown. So we sort of did figure out the problem, the solution, by bringing the spear beings, and then they put us on lockdown. Now we can't be removed. So in essence, Eisenhower did take a gamble, and it did pay. In there, that's what the NSA said.
Right. No, I was just curious, because
I didn't agree with it. I don't agree with it.
That's what I was saying. I don't agree with it.
I don't agree with the decision. That's what happened.
But it just strikes me kind of strange, is all.
Let me ask a question, Dan. Now this is hearsay, and because you were a paralegal and I was a paralegal, and I was an investigator, and I know you're working and you made some patents while you were. You're a scientist now, and that's fine. We all change hats. But when we have our first-hand information, we're joining together, trying to get everybody to cooperate, the word cooperation and non-conflict. And it sounds like, are you saying that this is something you learned in your job in this reality, or you got this, is this first-hand information, not hearsay? Because you would have had to receive it yourself and know it beyond the shadow of a doubt.
If I ask an NSA agent, why did Eisenhower do that? That's not Eisenhower speaking, because Eisenhower's passed. So I guess it's secondhand information.
So this is information that was told to an alleged NSA agent without you checking his credentials or knowing him, or you understand what I'm saying? In a court of law.
Yeah, and I can't pass that information on, but I did check his credentials thoroughly.
But you're saying that this was a story you're passing on to us. This is a story that somebody told you.
No. This is a real NSA agent that told me this and said it was a fact. Hearsay?
I know. But it's hearsay. Okay. So that's a hearsay story from his mouth to your ears in this reality, 3D reality. Right?
Well, really, that's mostly what we have for any kind of information is, unless you're part of the actual information, it's all hearsay.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
But
that's what
you
I'm
have
talking
to
about.
take it.
First-hand experience.
Yeah.
So
basically, hold on.
You have to experience
the law when it comes to hearsay and testimony is if the government is suppressing primary information, secondary information, and hearsay is admissible. That's the law. and the information is being suppressed, and I can prove it. The government suppresses the information. Therefore, secondary information, hearsay, and testimony is admissible.
So in the Mueller case with the Russians, how do you feel about that one? Is that I'm an inventor. I'm a physicist. I work on inventions. I don't follow that stuff. I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. 3D stuff.
Not even in slightly.
3D politics. I was just wondering because that would have been like another model for something you just said. In other words, if it's suppressed, it could be hearsay could be submissible in a court of law. Is that internationally or strictly in the U.S.?
Well, I know U.S. law, but and I've also delved into different countries' law, and a lot of the countries have very similar codes, very similar laws. So I can't tell you specifically, but I know that's the law in federal law in the United States. It's also state law in all the states of the United States.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me. So you did meet this human form because we discussed last night you sharing more information in 3D form. That would be this gentleman from China that I've written or cut and pasted with permission from Janet, this story that you figured, let's see, he figured that the Chinese, had been denied a seat at the table. Now, she's got in parentheses with the interplanetary corporate conglomerate, the ICC. So let's break that down and discuss that because I've never heard of that unless it was with, it's probably relating to some of the things we know by different words or acronyms or things. But can you explain, because other people in their mind's eye, whoever their God is or whoever their higher self is, may have experienced something on the other side or out-of-body near-death or been taken, like I've been taken in 3D form. So I'd like to discuss all these levels and try to make it understandable in a cooperative manner. Can you help us with your understanding of this, if you don't mind, the interplanetary? Get what I'm saying?
Well, the secret space, there's an awful lot of information. It's really hard to start from the end without starting from the beginning. But anyway, everybody has sort of heard of the secret space program. And that secret space program is controlled by a committee of 200 people, and then there's an oversight council of 7. And that whole group are mostly the controllers of the major aerospace corporations, and it actually left the military control and went into private corporation control. So that's why we call it the interplanetary corporate conglomerate. It's a group of U.S. corporations and some other corporations in Europe, corporations in the Five Eyes, mostly U.S. aerospace corporations that run the secret space program. And they own all of the assets and all of the colonies off planet, out of solar system and in solar system. TJ? Did I lose you? Hello?
I'm sorry. I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I try to keep it short. If you have, you gave me 10 questions, so I try to keep it short. So what else? What didn't I answer?
Well, thank you, sweetie. Let me get Janet Lessin on here. She's been patiently waiting. Janet Lessin, would you like to introduce yourself and then welcome Dan and Ahmad and Tommy to the show, please? Go ahead, Janet. You got the floor.
Hi. I'm Janet Lessin. I'm the co-host for this show, and this is part 2. We actually did part 1 last night, and we're talking to Dan Cooper, and we're talking about the secret space program, the interplanetary corporate conglomerate, and who and what they are, and what's going on behind the scenes. It's a very interesting subject, and I've been talking to Dan about his involvement in the 20-back program for years now. Yeah, a couple of years, about a year now, right? Or half a year. Who knows? When did we meet, Dan? I'm just waking up. I fell deeply asleep. I was off planet. Boy, I was just intending to lie down for a few minutes and refresh, recharge, because I've been up since 5 a.m. But here we are. So I missed the first part of the show. My apologies. And So we were talking about I guess you were just explaining the interplanetary corporate conglomerate. And those would they be part of the Illuminati? Is that a correct thing to say? Or are they a separate entity?
No. The Illuminati is one small faction of the interplanetary corporate conglomerate.
Okay.
The Vatican is a very small faction. The Nazis are a very small faction. Women are actually on the committee, but they're a small faction. Mostly these big, powerful corporations.
How many factions are in this interplanetary? So
I don't know every. I don't know every. I don't know every single person in every single entity.
Okay, but you just okay. So this is the real force behind the secret space program.
They run it. Those corporations, they run it.
And so we're already as a species, we're already spacefaring species, and we are out there trading with other beings. About how many species are we interacting with? Or is it in the?
There are supposed to be 900, but because my 20 and back years were in combat, and that information was kept from us. This is information I'm getting from Corey Good, that there are 900 different 900 different species, 900 separate solar systems that we had dealt with before the outer barrier went up, that we were doing regular commerce with. Randy also said the same thing. Randy Kramer and Corey Good give very accurate descriptions of the real secret space program.
Well, we did a show with Randy Kramer at the Stargates and Cosmos Expo conference in Albuquerque in October, and he was saying that we actively trade with other species. There's a big facility, I think it's outside of Jupiter, like overlooking the clouds. Is it Jupiter? It's been a while since that happened, but he was describing that they all gather together and trade, and the biggest products that we export are children's clothing and beer. Did you ever hear any of that? It's just fascinating. Tell us more about.
No. His last post was on that station, so he knows. Mm-hmm. That was his last post.
Right.
It was an honor that they gave him. He's our most decorated super soldier. What can I say? 26, 5. Does you know what a 5/16 star is? Same thing as the Medal of Honor. You get one Medal of Honor. He has the Marine Corps Medal of Honor and 26 5/16 stars. This is our most decorated warrior.
So these people that are decorated in the secret space program, they're not going to have a regular military status, nor would they get a paycheck like they had been.
Randy is now because they redrafted him to represent the program. He is actually their the real formal person that they allowed for disclosure. I also believe that Corey is also authorized, but not so much as Randy. They like Randy. I've talked to different officers in the secret space program, generals, and they really like Randy. Randy has really impressed a lot of the brass.
So, and I wanted to ask this of everybody on the panel. We have a mad painter, Thomas Becker, and Theresa J. Morris, and myself. I'm civilian. I've had a military contract. I was on Johnson Atoll. I was only there about a year, 2 months, and I don't have any kind of rank or status, or do I get any kind of military pay or retirement from the military. But TJ and Thomas, you were both in the military. Could you answer yes or no? What's your highest rank? TJ, what was your rank when you were when you left the military? How long did you serve? TJ or Thomas? I don't know. Maybe somebody's on mute. Thomas.
TJ might have a mic on.
Do you mean rank or no?
Yeah,
there's a difference between rank and security clearance.
You mean GSA?
Yes.
The highest rank I made was E3, but I had a top security clearance.
Okay, and what does that mean, top security clearance?
It was above most of them, but not real high.
Okay. And so, I was on Johnson Atoll, and there's a certain level of security clearance you have to even get onto the place, because they don't even let most people on that island ever. And when you land, they literally have these big guns. I mean, big guns on, on wheels, right? And they're aimed at you when you're marching out to get on the plane or come into the island. It's just amazing. They drop you off at the tarmac, and you walk across the tarmac, and the whole time you're walking either way to come or go, there's these big guns aimed at you and soldiers. So they want to make sure there's never a terrorist attack, and they're prepared. But I know there was some kind of ranking. TJ, are you with us again? Hello? Did we lose our host? Are we still on?
No, I'm sorry. I'm here.
I can
Believe
hear
it
you.
or not, thank you. I had people in the room, and I didn't want you to hear me. I was looking up
we don't want to hear them.
all this intergalactic conglomerate and all that.
Well, wait, I asked a question.
What?
Can you answer the question I asked, and we'll go back to that?
Sure.
What was your highest rank, and how long were you in the service? And I know you were in twice. You were rehire, and what was your top level security clearance?
You were talking about two different things.
Yes.
Because
we are
we're not talking
those.
about.
Yes.
Dan didn't wear a uniform at all. This is my understanding, right,
Right.
Dan?
I'm talking about you and Thomas. You and
Me
Thomas.
and Thomas?
Yes, Thomas answered already.
It's different. It's not the same. So that's one thing we've got to get clear. When Dan's talking about something off planet,
we already cleared that. We just want Dan and I were not in the
two different
military
things.
legally.
It's not the same. So that whole thing about me bringing forth the Allied Command is how does people that have rank like me and Thomas Becker, when we were enlisted, and we have various levels, we may go in and do boot camp and then get what they call an A school. And mine was hospital corpsman. I went to Naval Hospital Corps School, but that's not what I did. That was like a job. Then I went over and worked for the CO and XO, and I did Judge Advocate General investigations and finding of fact and putting together what they call JAG investigations. And then after that, so that's in uniform. Wait, let's see. No, boot camp and A school is in uniform. So that's called active duties, a green card. And then, see, that's one level. And Thomas, you want to explain to her about yours at the active duty green card in this reality, in this world, and in this real 3D? Because what we're talking about is completely different. Because she needs to understand the difference.
Well, yeah, I told her it was a difference between rank and security clearance. Even though I wasn't really high in rank, I had a high security clearance because of what I was doing.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the other. People
what were you doing, Thomas?
I worked with nuclear weapons.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So I had to have a certain security clearance in order, they had to trust me enough to play with them. Basically.
He had to have a minimum of a top secret, which takes a minimum of 6 months. So while he was going through boot camp, they gave him one level. When he got assigned an A school or a designation, they then went into doing his background, because then he had a need to know working with nuclear. And did they tell you it was above TS at all or not? You didn't have anything above TS?
All I know is I was able to do what I was able to do. It's also compartmentalized. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's all compartmentalized.
I was trained to a certain level and no higher.
Yeah, but you work nuclear, so that's minimum TS, even back when you were in it. That's a minimum. Nuclear, they don't do
so
that.
What was your ranking? TJ, what was your security clearance?
Well, that's on this. You're trying to get me to convince you that I've got something above and off planet that allows me to do something.
No, I don't. I'm not trying to convince anything. I'm just asking what was your rank and what was your security clearance?
On
and how
the
many years
planet
did you
here,
serve?
it's way above top secret. It was called, I can't even tell you because it was too compartmentalized. But trust me that it was above Royal 14. It was above Q. These are things you'll hear about.
Yeah, there's something like 30-some above top secret.
Okay.
I had a very high
So
clearance.
Dan,
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah. So Dan, when you did yours, even though you were in the secret mode, the space program, did you have any kind of rank? Right. But when you were in that program, did you have any kind of rank or security clearance?
In Darkfleet, we there was no need for security clearance for us. We didn't. I mean, there was no need. You're out on ship and you're so far away from this solar system, inconsequential. Doesn't mean anything.
Right.
I never heard anybody talk about clearances off planet, to be honest. But I get what you're coming from.
I'm just asking, how does it work? Yeah. Just asking, how does it work off planet? Do they have rank? Do they have security clearance? Is the military organized the same way that is on Earth, or is it a different structure? That's what I'm asking. How is it structured? So did you have a commander?
Tell you what mine is. I can tell you what mine is.
Let's talk about yours.
All right, so you consider it the same. And for those that are not familiar, this is accepted just like if you die and see Jesus or God. It's whatever you think. It appears the same. So for Tom, when he saw Army, because we had this conversation. So he was in the military and saw office ranks. When I went, I saw Navy ranks. And this was one of the first arguments that separated us because neither one believed the other one. And we separated because we were truck drivers at the time because we both knew where we'd been and what we'd done. And this is before I knew that I was at the end of his barrel. So you know the stories that all blend together, and you're trying to decipher it into one reality, and it doesn't happen that way. It's apples and oranges, just so you know. But when I went up there, yes, we had a commanding officer, and he's in the book. And from there, there's officers on each ship in charge. But I got transported to the fleet, and I worked at the flagship, and so did he. And I worked in communications. He worked in weapons. So when he was on the planet down here, 3D in uniform, he was looking for weapons for the DOD, Department of Army, and CIA. But basically, President Reagan was the one that cleared him to go underground. And he had to get a higher clearance to do that. Matter of fact, through the Pentagon and other things. That was here in this reality. And this reality got him started where he was able to learn about off-planet. Me, on the other hand, flipped that. I had been off-planet first and knew about this stuff, and then I learned in boot camp that I had a ET vision in my head of meeting Tom. And then when I got over to Hawaii, a psychic told me I was going to meet a guy, but I was already married to a GS-13. And, you know, Rick's an 18, so you know it goes as high as GS-18, just so you know. But off planet, I was indoctrinated as a commander, and that's as high as I could go. We called all the people that were working at ship commanders, even on Gus, a shuttle, which is what Ken's talking about. But when I came back after this last time, and the one I told you about on the ocean here in Gulf Breeze, which I never understood why the ETs let my daughter get a picture of a UFO when I'd been trying my entire life. You know, in San Diego when I was working Balboa in hospital in 75 and 6. They would never let me see them. But after I came back after 2 deaths and then this from level 5 and I got to go to level 7, that's when I got an admiral level. And all I could relate it to was Star Trek, because I had no other way to understand why they would do that. But because they took me and lifted me up and put me in the chair, and, you know, I said, like, that was Jesus. But he looked like Obama. I'm like, man, am I messed up? So Obama was Jesus. So, remember, Janet? But so that's how I got my level of ambassador, I guess, in my reality. But see, now they mix up. They go from 3D to off planet. Then they go to you asking, did you really experience that in body or out? So this is why I wanted to have this show tonight. And Dan, because, we're all important. So, Ahmad, you know what you were telling me? This is an important time for you to speak. Ahmad, the differences.
I'm
like
sorry, I'm lost.
Well, I don't want you
to
be
I'm a little bit lost,
I want
too.
you to help. Because, Dan makes it help. Dan, you understand Dan, help me out with, let's get it written down about the levels. Can you do that? Or you want me to read how they do it on the planet?
Levels? What do you mean levels?
Well, okay. Oh, all right. There's levels of existence.
Are we still talking about ranks?
I think we're trying to help.
I got lost. I don't know where TJ is going with what you're talking about because I got a little bit lost.
Okay,
and
levels.
I'm sorry, I got lost.
There's levels.
Well, we're talking about just in the military and the secret space program.
There's
we're
three separate things. Actually,
so that's what we're talking about right now. Okay, let's say something. Go ahead, Dan. Let Dan say something. Hold on. Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
In my group in Darkfleet, we followed you. In my group in Darkfleet, we took U.S. Air Force ranks. I was an airman, and that's what I stuck with. First class. Ranks are irrelevant out there. In fact, the Japanese insisted that we never wear rank.
Wow.
For combat reasons. You don't want to let your enemy know who's in command.
Oh, that's true in the field. That's true. You have to rip off your insignia. Just like when I was a corpsman, that's true, Dan. And they didn't understand why I got to wear a weapon if I was a corpsman. I didn't really understand that myself. But you're right. I had to rip off ranks when I wore black. And that's in this reality, just so you know.
Yeah, we only wore rank at ceremonies. That's it. And my rank was I was always first class airman. That's it.
All right. So Janet, so we have this reality in our head, but that doesn't mean that that's in the 3D reality. It's very complicated to talk about. So that's what I'm trying to do. Is we're going to establish levels rather than human, like Corey Good. Let
me just interject something. When you watch Star Trek. Everybody in Star Trek has rank. They have the military base, and people are, going through the universes, and now they're going 900 years in the future with the current episodes, and so they have rank, So they seem to have carried that over into a Star Trek world. So I just thought that, and then of course, like Corey Good is on Mars, so he's out in space, and he has a rank, right? So I thought they were using it across the board, but I guess they rank or no rank, even though this is a military combat type exercise, they don't seem to really, for me, looking at this as a civilian, looking at this, they don't appear to be consistent, rank or no rank. Anyway, I know that you were in the regular 3D U.S. military, like Thomas Becker, right? But you were also, TJ, you were also in the secret space program. So I wondered, when you were in the secret space program, you were in the rank of commander at one point, which I'm not sure how that equates to the U.S. Military. Commander, is that in Army, Navy? You said Navy.
Navy.
Is there a rank called commander?
I had to learn all the ranks
Navy?
on the planet, and I had to learn all the ranks on the planet in boot camp. That's SOP standard for anybody, whether they're Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. You have to learn all the enlisted and officer ranks. It's part of your boot camp training.
And I don't know that.
Right. Okay. But when I got out and became a civilian, I also had to learn the difference between civilian levels 1 through 18. Like Rick was a GS-18, but yet he taught all the SEALs, probably at GS-13 or something. It's rank in years, and you have to have an Office of Personnel Management grades each level by the description, and the words, the key words, go into your resume and the jobs you've had. but it's based on your inner consciousness, and the basic continuity is what's normally under course and scope of your job. And so what I learned, the difference was what you do down here isn't necessarily what you do up there. And that's what I'm finding. But to make it easy for people that are trying to learn about just the generic term, which I first learned about this in '85, but I had to experience it firsthand. So my experience will be different than Corey's or somebody else's. Corey apparently worked, I think he was Army Reserve or something in uniform, which has nothing to do with what he did on ship. But I used to know the basics, but I don't anymore after Corey got away from Avalon and Bill Ryan. So his story was different. He came out because he was quiet. But now I did follow Bob Dean with the Supreme Headquarters because Tom worked in Paris. And we brought up Robert O'Dean because he was in the U.S. Army ranks, right? And you liked him, and I liked him. So you and I were going to do our best to follow the Allied powers and the Supreme Headquarters because I was shocked that what I learned, and Dan may find this interesting, that you and I were talking about something and looked it up, and it was on the planet. And just now I looked up the Interconglomerate League of Nations in the whatever Dan called that. And it's in fandom. It's it's written up already, in different groups that do cyberspace, movies and comic books, and they take it, and then it gets so confusing. You don't know if it's reality or groups or people just talking and putting it in fandom right now.
Well,
that's where I read
exactly
it.
what they did with the Federation. They put it in Star Trek. They call it the Federation, right?
Right. So it's all confusing.
And so they do that
intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
So following the Supreme Headquarters on the planet, there was a report done about extraterrestrials, and that was the one we were going to follow for the shape assessment, which Robert O'Dean brought out. But now, see, there was radar and electromagnetic effects and the optical and light analysis and the photo and holographic analysis and historical research and evidence and metallurgy, technical analysis. And that might be where Dan would be if we had the real UFO thing. Hold on. Atmosphere is one of them. And atmospheric, physical, and meteorological. Then biological analysis and
let's get back on topic.
It's real
complicated
out
there.
Let's
not
go
go there. It's too complicated. Let's not go to reading stuff. We've got live people here.
Okay,
let's engage with our people. Okay, back to Dan. What would you like us to know today, Dan, about your involvement in the space program and what's coming up? Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, just one thing about ranks. The GS ranks are compared to military ranks. It's easy to look up. Just look up. You can see the equivalent ranks. Just look up this one. I'll give you the look up. It's Army ranks to GS pay grades. It also has the Air Force, Marine, and Coast Guard. And when TJ's saying GS-18, that used to be the 3-star lieutenant general it used to be GS-18, but they kind of changed that now to SES levels. All generals are SES, but it used to be the GS-18. So she's talking about a 3-star general equivalent rank, GS-18. Now it's called SES-3. Look up the GS Army ranks to civilian GS pay grades. Okay, now what's your question?
We wanted to go back to you and ask you. We have these shows and they're long and they're short at the same time, so time's gonna go fast. What would you like us to know about your story? I know you had training you wanted to address, the facilities that are on the moon and the Chinese. There's a lot of directions we can go with this show, but we didn't even cover half of it yesterday, and so here we are. We're back in. We're almost 3/4 way through the first hour. So let's focus on the items that you had on your bucket list and what you wanted to reveal to people on this show today. So go ahead, Dan.
You're asking
Talk
20
to us
questions.
about this.
What you want to know is what's the most important thing that I learned in my 20 and back as a super soldier in dark. What was the most important thing I learned? What I learned is that the most advanced civilizations do not engage in combat with technology. They agree to resolve their conflicts in ritual combat between combatants in duels. The most advanced, and that was the most significant thing that I had learned. That the most advanced civilizations don't use technology to fight with each other.
And that's actually what the Anunnaki did. There was a point where they were trying to figure out who was going to be king of the Nibiru. And they said, okay, let's wrestle for it. So they got butt naked and they wrestled, and the victor was the king of Nibiru. Now, in their story, they didn't kill each other, but your story, when you send a warrior, a gladiator, to fight for your planet, and you fight for the United States. So it's like the Olympics. You fight for the United States, but it's to the death. So could you explain that to us, to the listeners?
No, it's not to the death. No, every duel has a different rule of engagement. Some of the engagements are to first blood. Some of the engagements are to disable whoever. If you're disabled and you can't continue to fight, you lose. And some very, very few of the matches are to the death. Only one person leaves.
So, have you been in both types of fights, and what was the circumstances?
I've been in all three, many times.
Okay.
I was the duelist. That was my specialist. I was a duelist specialist. That's what I was trained for. I was trained to be a specialist duelist. That's what I was.
So explain to us, give us a story about all three scenarios.
I told you before I didn't want to do battle sequences until I gave the training battle sequences. But essentially, I fought with two laser swords in combat with one or more combatants, and those were the duels. Most of the duels were with laser swords, and I had two of them.
So go over the training then. That's what you want to tell us. Yeah, tell us. Go ahead.
I find this kind of action disturbing myself. Nobody else does? I mean, this means that might means right, and that's not the way reality is.
So why did they use that system, Dan? That if you're physical and you have power physically, that you win, that establishes the course of for entire planets. What was the logic behind that requirement?
No, that's the way. That's just the way they resolve conflicts. They decided not to use technology to engage in resolving their disputes between each other. Meaning, one realm has one realm, many solar systems has a dispute with another realm, many solar systems, and they didn't resolve. They decided not to resolve, engage in combat with each other. With weapons, because weapons were so dangerous, the very advanced civilizations quickly are able to develop weapons that can destroy planets very quickly, and they stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And so
on Nibiru, they had plots. They had wiped themselves out. They were about to go extinct as a species. So that's why they went into this. Okay, we have a conflict now. We're not going to bring out the nukes, and we're not going to bomb each other. You send your champion. I'll send my champion, and then whoever wins, they get to establish the rules. Is that kind of what was going on in this galaxy?
I don't think you're going to be able to compare all this. I think it's different timing. It's almost like being in different worlds on different timelines. And, you know what I'm saying? We've got a lot of things to talk about, but I don't think it's going to mesh. It just needs to be looked at how different people were back during the, horse and buggy days compared to how they are now.
He's talking about what he did. He's just sharing his experience.
Yeah.
He's just talking about his experience. So go ahead. Tell us your experience, Dan.
These are the planets, because I was trained as a duelist, those are the planets I fought in where they did dueling. We weren't even invited to the realms unless we were willing to submit to combat. because they wanted us to prove that we were willing to forego technology and resolve conflicts if we had with them in duels. So we weren't even welcome unless we could send duelists that were capable. That's what I was trained to do. Many advanced species don't do this, but those weren't where I went. I was assigned where I was trained to be assigned to go. Many planets don't do that, but that's not what I serve in that capacity, so I went to those planets.
Okay. And so you wanted to tell us about your training. Could you tell us what you want to share about your training and how that works?
Training starts right as soon as you can walk. Actually, even before then. As soon as you can walk. They put you in pools before you can walk, and then they try to get you to walk as fast as you can, as soon as you can. They had a dog train me how to walk, constantly nudges to keep us to walk and then run. And the training is done at nighttime at the base, and then during the day, those memories are removed so we don't get that training and then don't remember it. And we go to regular schools during the day where we're continuing to be trained, but it looks like a regular school, but it's not really a regular school. And we were trained in many different skills. I guess, running like the Apache. I had Apache instructors, sword fighting from Japanese and sword fighting I learned from Japanese instructors, and Shaolin monk instructors. The Shaolin used to also fight with swords. Those were my instructors in that. I had instruction in equestrian trick riding. I had instruction in bull riding from bull riders and equestrian trick riders from anything that would be useful against or in those engagements is what they would teach us. I was taught how to run through the jungle by the Hmong, also known as the mountain yard warriors. The training is quite extensive. Also, psionic skills, telekinesis was very important, and some empathic. We didn't do nearly the level of psionic training that PSYOPs Corp people did, but it was quite extensive because a lot of the combatants we dealt with had those abilities. They could go and they could actually enter your mind and control you. They did that in Star Wars. They said, these are not the droids you were looking for. That particular ability, they had to teach us to block that ability because the many reptilian species that we actually had fought with had that ability, and they could take over your mind. Enamor you is reality.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay, so then you were trained in all these things, and then so I don't know if you're ready to explain some of your combat situations or if that's where you want to go. We're kind of just tracking you. Where do you want to go with your information to tell our listeners at this point? You want to talk about some of your battles?
It's the 20 and back. People do want to know a lot about that, but my main focus today is the inventing and distribution of free energy generators, motors, and engines. So we can bring this planet back to its pristine condition and free everybody from economic slavery. They don't want to do that because they committed, meaning the secret space program, in the people in charge don't want us to be removed from slavery because they still want us to be transported and because they sold us and they took the technology already. They just can't deliver us. They think they're going to be able to take down the barrier, so they want at least 100 years to do that. That's why you keep hearing 100 years before disclosure, because they want 100 years to figure out how to get through the barrier before they will allow something else to occur, which means, before they stop considering us slaves that are going to be exported to the places, to the people that bought us. We're not gonna allow that. I'm not gonna allow that. That's unacceptable to me because I know they can't take down the barrier. We'll never be able to take down the barrier, and I'm not going to give them 100 years to do it.
Good. So how can you stop them from requiring this 100 years before disclosure? What can you do?
We have a lot of people on this. We have a lot of people on this planet, a lot of countries on this planet that are not a part of the secret space program. That are becoming aware of this particular circumstance, and if I can't, and I kind of use, I'm able to go work there if I need to, if I can't get the secret space program to say, okay, go ahead, we're going to bring this plant, we're going to stop treating you as slaves and free you from economic slavery and allow this technology to be released. If the United States doesn't do that, I have other places to go that will do that I am very welcome at.
Mhm. Well, Errol the Great from Roswell wrote what was his name? It's called Interview with an Alien. And in that book, which was also a YouTube series, they talked about how this is a slave planet. That once souls come in here, they're trapped in this cycle of, reincarnation, and they can't get out. Is that what's going on as far as you know?
No.
Dan?
No.
Okay, so you're not aware of the theory that this is a,
No, it's a planet where they grow slaves, and we're one crop. And then when they sell all of us off, then we're going to grow another crop of slaves. And it continues on and on for thousands of years. And I'm trying to stop that cycle. Well, having the outer barrier up definitely allows us to stop the cycle. But the people in charge of the secret space program, the people that sold us, they're afraid that we're going to kill them all because they committed that crime. In fact, they've been threatened by China and Russia that they want them all executed. That's why they keep insisting on amnesty. Well, we're not going to give you any technology unless you give us amnesty. And I'm trying to convince the Chinese and Russians to give them amnesty no matter what. We don't need their technology. I'm working with a bunch of scientists, and we're really reinventing all that stuff. It's not that hard to reinvent. We're really smart people.
So how does this tie in with the announcement about the new space program where they're going to get to the moon within 5 years, and then the Chinese program, which apparently they're already there, or they plan on getting to the moon, and then the Mars mission? How does this all tie in with what your inventions and your goals?
Well, going to the moon and going to Mars, that's a rich man's hobby. We just want to make this planet pristine and free everybody up from economic slavery. They don't care about the moon or Mars. They just want to be free of economic slavery, and they want this planet restored. Only rich people think, I want to go to the moon. I want to take a ride to Mars. Well, that's a little tour. It's like going on a cruise. It's vacation. That's not gonna free you from economic slavery.
What's going to free us from economic slavery? Explain that to us.
The technology.
What can we do?
Free energy generators, motors, and engines.
And explain how that frees us.
Right now, you pay about 16 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity. Free energy generator, right. Considering all costs involved, is about 1/20th. This is the most expensive ones. 1/20th a penny per kilowatt hour. And that changes everything. That alone frees you from economic slavery. That electricity alone. And then put them in cars, and you don't have to fill cars with gasoline ever. Put them in trucks, put them in ships, put them in jets.
They don't have they don't have something they can continually market and suck money out of our pockets if it's free.
Right.
So how can we ever get them to give it to us? Because Tesla had this back in the early 1900s, right? Tesla retrofitted cars, Model T cars with it.
If you can't actually invent them, then you can't force the issue. And that's what they told me originally. They said, well, you can sit there and ask all you want, but we're not going to give it to you. Go invent it yourself. So I said, okay, I can do that. And I did. Now I can force the issue because I have the technology.
And what will you do to keep them from squelching it like they've done before?
Well, we'll see. There's I have ideas. I expect the outcome to come out in our favor because I've always won all of my battles.
Right. And it seems that there's a faction that wants this to come out and a faction that wants to repress it. Is that what's going on?
Yeah. Definitely Marilyn Houston definitely wants the technology released right away. Definitely. She showed Tom DeLonge she showed him the 6th Force and the 7th Force. She showed him a replicator. And he described it to you. And all the scientists in NASA agree, yeah, that's the 6th and 7th Force. Anybody in NASA said, yeah, that's the 6th and 7th Force. That means that Marilyn Houston clearly told all of the top scientists in the United States, this is real. This is not fiction.
Right.
So she's the person that wants it released, but she's not in total control. So she went a little rogue and showed us some. But she didn't actually show us, she showed Tom. Tom's kind of he's technologically illiterate, but his description is absolutely accurate. And the NASA scientists that reviewed the description were able to recreate it from that description. Thank you, Tom.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Anybody else have questions for Dan? Matt Painter, do you have a question? Or comment or feedback?
I'm sorry, I was on the phone with my wife. What was it?
Never mind if you're on the phone with your wife. We were just going back to you. We're passing the talking stick, and I wondered if you had any comments or feedback.
She went out of town
questions.
and she wanted to. She went out of town and she wanted to inform me that she made it there. That was all.
Oh,
okay, good. I'm glad she arrived safely. That's sweet. Yes.
She's now part of our radio show. Paranormal researchers we are. All right, folks. I'll sort of take over here. UFO Association begins with the paranormal research of ET educational entertainment with American Communication Online. And so I formed this little company, but we're not doing anything except making radio shows. So what we're looking for is people such as Dan Cooper with a story to tell, and a mad painter, and even Tommy Huxblood and Janet Lessin. And we started with Stargate to Cosmos 7 years ago, so we're coming up in June. So if any of you would like to join us, we have ACOassociation.com and UFOassociation.org. I'm paying for those myself, and unbelievably, it costs a lot of money to do these things in social media, not to mention your time, but mainly dollars. So I'm just letting you know. We do have a donate button, but, nobody cares. So I'm just letting you know. I have not yet figured out how a mad painter gets Mike Ringley to do this, but apparently they're able to do it. There must be magic behind some people that know how to run radio stations. But anyway, I love Mad and Janet and Revolution Radio, folks. Be sure and listen to Mad Painter on Sunday and Monday nights. You just go to revolution.radio, and Janet Lessin has 2 shows on Sunday and Monday night, isn't it, Janet, on Revolution? I'm just doing a little thing on the hour here.
I have Sunday and Tuesday, and I wanted to say there's a donate button on aquarianradio.com, and your site where you have your donate button. Where can people donate to you if they want to donate? TJ?
Mine's on UFO Association. Mine's on UFOassociation.org. Yeah.
.org. Where is it on that? I'll go look at it. I'll go see where it is. I want to see if it's because we've been doing this for 7 years. 7 years. If we added it all up, we would probably have a heart attack with what we've spent to do this for free.
It just comes out of my account, folks. It's just money gone.
Yeah.
I'm really behind America. I'm on the bottom and going, make America great again, folks, with all my little pennies and dollars. But, we're all equal in that respect. Believe me, people at the Trump level.
I don't see your donation button. Where? Oh, okay, here it is. Like UFOassociation.org. She needs to make it a big, bright button. She has it hidden on
the
third line down.
Remember some of the girls,
donate.
But what it is, Jen, is a lot of women in radio now. It's very competitive business, and they're all getting a little catty about people making money. And I haven't made money yet, even on my books. I'm in debt because I published.
Well, we're not talking about making money. We're talking about maybe help the meet the.
We're helping the world. Our heart's in the right place.
Just like just like Revolution Radio. They have, here's our budget every month, and it's like what, $2,600 or something. And please help us just pay the bill.
We can't collect enough. It takes me about $200 a month the way I'm doing it. But now, folks, I do have to admit that there's a lot of companies out there helping me, like iTunes, FM Radio, Stitcher. Now, I do have to pay for Spreaker, but Spreaker does a lot of work for me. I was having to do myself. It took me about an hour to download the show and put it back up free on YouTube through my Microsoft Word or my Word Windows 10. So I'll put it on a Spreaker. I'll pay them $40 a month and then another $20 on another channel, 2 different channels. But you know what? It comes out in little 15-minute increments, but it's worth it. Janet used to pay big bucks for the entire 2 hours, so she's got one that loads free every time. She's broke the code, haven't you, Janet? But Spreaker's good for that.
No, dear. I had to back off of paying that because I have to eat, right? It's to stay alive. So it just anyway. I don't want to cry.
This is a homemade commercial. I made commercial for the old lady.
We're obsessed because the reason I do this, and I know this is why Dan does this. So, and this, I'm going to talk to Thomas and Matt. Why do we do this?
You better tell me why I do it, because I've been paying the bill 7 years.
It's insane on the logical, right? So, let's go round robin and ask, why do we do this? We could certainly be earning a bigger living some other way, but the people that get involved in the UFO world, we want to help the world become, it reminds me of Michael Jackson, make the world a better place for me and you and the entire human race. And I want to include the extraterrestrials that come and go from this planet. And my vision is to get us out in space, because I love Star Trek. I was 12 in 66 when it premiered.
You old, girl.
When I thought that, I was 12. I was 12 in 66. But it inspired me because I said, on some level, this is it. This is real. And if not real, we're going to make it real. And we thought it would happen a lot sooner back then, because we were supposed to go to the moon in 69, but we went to the moon and we just stopped. And that was because we got met by extraterrestrials and said, you can't be coming to the moon. So here it is. How many years later? 2019. This is July 20th, 1969. This is going to be an anniversary year of the moon landing, where they said, you can't colonize here. You can't come back. And so we stopped going. So anyway, Dan and
that's
everybody,
hearsay.
Why? Well, it's a story, and the whole world is full of a story, but it's what Bill Tompkins
I like the Jetsons
told us.
better than anything.
And Bill Tompkins told us this story, and he was dead. He was dead 2 weeks later. So he died for us. He died for us to get that information out. So, okay, so let's go round robin. Thomas Becker, why do you do this? You are on the radio all the time, on Revolution Radio. What inspires you to do this? There's certainly easier things to do.
I'm only on the radio 6 hours a week, usually. I've got a 4-hour show on Sunday and a 2-hour on Monday, and the main reason is just to bring people information and to make them think. Use that gray matter between their brain or ears, that thing called the brain. It's a muscle, and if you don't use it, you lose it. And America is being dumbed down so ridiculous, and if we don't pay attention to what's going on, we're going to end up knocking ourselves back to the Stone Age again. And I have grandchildren, and I would like them to have some sort of a life other than having to survive.
Yeah. And Dan, why do you do this? You're retired like me and TJ and the Mad. And why do you do this, Dan?
I kind of got it from Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla was really fond of talking to the public and showing the public the technology and explaining the technology to the public. The problem is that the technology was never given to the public. So I do this because I want to take it a step further. I want to not just talk to the public and let them know about the technology and teach them about the technology, but I really, really, really want to get that technology out to the people so that they can be free from economic slavery and to restore the planet to its pristine condition.
I like that. I'm all for restoring the planet. TJ, what gets you up in the day to do all this stuff, and what motivates you?
The ETs, my mission. They gave me a long time ago when they gave me that logo that looks like a crop circle or a ET with all the radio waves coming out of it. I didn't know what it was. I still don't really, but I use it as a logo. But I've been saying this since the 80s for the Ascension Centers and the Ancient Mystery Schools that we have a mission statement, and I have memorized it because I have used it since 1989. So I'll tell you, Janet, because you should know this, and everybody that's listened to this radio show for 7 years, this was based on the members of the Ascension Center that ascribe to the highest standards of excellence with regard to the uplifting of humankind by providing spiritual and educational awareness. Isn't that pretty? So what I did was when I got into the government, we didn't have all of this. And then I got in the government looking for the ETs and the computers. So I wound up teaching computers because people didn't have them yet. So I had to buy mine and put it together with a K-Pro from Radio Shack. But we provided services. So I started providing services as private and group connecting, starting groups and having classes and seminars and counseling and doing psychics, training psychics at Psychic Network in Hawaii. And later on, we got into doing publications, audio, videotapes, and I was going on radio shows in Hawaii. And that's how I wound up doing Hilton Hawaiian Village and getting people involved. So I'm still in the same thing I've been doing. And I had a big corporation, became president, CEO of that, and profit, nonprofit, and then got trained for another one I talked about. But I'm still doing the spiritual gathering for private group counseling. And when I came into the internet, I asked for the internet when I was running that corporation out of Hawaii, and that's a big spy base. And I went to Yokosuka, Japan, and went to Spain and Africa and all those places. But nobody had what I needed to run my company, which was the internet. So fortunately, the government, working with education and all that, we needed it in the civilian world. And my accountant says, I don't know where you're getting this, but, oh, that's right, you work for the government, so you know about this stuff. Well, we don't have it out here yet. So I was like coming into business, running a corporation, like I was from another planet, and I felt like I was. So that's why I'm here today, is I'm still doing my mission. So hopefully it's to uplift humankind by providing spiritual and educational awareness, basically of the extraterrestrials, because my motto was alien civilizations exist. So that's what I'm about. So I still use ACE for Ace Folk Life Society, of those that want to remember ancient wisdom and new thought teachings together. And that's what we did. We brought ancient wisdom and new thought teaching. So did you get all that? Because I had my phone on backwards into my palm.
Yes, we
Was it muted?
Way to go!
Even though I don't know how to use a phone. So that's it. That's the muted mission, and I'm sticking to it because you guys should know I've repeated that. So we have the ACOassociation.com out there, folks, if you're interested, and Ascension.Center, and Janet has AscensionCenter.net. But we really did start for spiritual and educational awareness for ancient wisdom and new thought teachings, which came together on all these television shows, oddly enough, ancient. And when we got up the internet and got it going, and everybody, they had this. They had my news. We had, matter of fact, on the course content and introduction to metaphysics and spirituality, we didn't only have Jyotish and Ayurvedic medicine and numerology and astrology and dowsing and automatic writing and tarot and Kabbalah, but we had ascended masters, Agashan teachers, and we also had multidimensionals and star beings in the 80s, extraterrestrials, and I was part of the 1970s group before we had what was, at one time, we were the points of light, and we were, I don't know if you remember or not, but we had this, we were getting ready for not 2012, it was way before that. So, Janet, do you remember what that was called?
We were doing Y2K, but I'm going to get back to,
no,
we're getting too far.
we were doing New Age harmonic
the harmonic
convergence.
about the ascension. It was in what was it, in '88 or something. And most of the people alive right now don't even remember the harmonic convergence. But that's an old hippie thing. I thought it was '88, but anyway, I don't quite remember. Yeah,
it all goes together because they were training people to be children of the crystal, indigo, rainbow, and all that I wrote about years and years ago.
So I want to come back to this show because that's another show. But we can talk about that in another show.
All right.
Yeah.
So now, Jen, this would be good for bringing together our work because you found Dan, and I don't know, he's pretty committed to doing his work, but we asked him to, does he want to help? Do you want to do anything to do with our paranormal researchers or ET education?
No, TJ, let's
not
just
at
stay
all.
on the show. We're not. Let's
that's
not go there.
What the show was supposed to be about. But
no,
Dan
what
was
we're talking
to come
about
back.
is. Yes. I want to go back. I found something that I had a
point
point
for
asking this.
Okay, I'll go back on
because I wanted to bring it back to what makes somebody be altruistic and want to do something for the world. And then what makes somebody go all selfish and want to do it for themselves, right? So let's bring that back home because the four of us are here. We're aware of our mission to a degree. We're doing what we can. Our real passion is doing something to make the world a better place for everyone. And yet we have so many people. It's called service to others and service to self. So, Dan, you're in service to others because you're here, and obviously Thomas Becker is in service to others because not only do you do your own shows, Thomas, but you help me, you help all these people. This is your own time. You could be doing something else, and then you're here and you're contributing and you're managing the board, and then TJ, all the stuff you do. So let's bring that around. What do you think is going on with people that just don't get it? That, this is more important than anything else, but they go into hoarding money, selling humanity as slaves. I mean, that's as bad as you can get. We're going to sell humanity as slaves. And I just found the thing by Michael Solid, and it says that the U.S. Congress passes a bill protecting slave labor on Mars and secret corporate space colonies. And so this was from 2015. But somebody take this talking stick. I'm done for now. Dan, you want to take it?
Well, yeah, Michael Saul is correct. That's exactly what they did. But that was before the that was actually right after the outer barrier went up. Let's see. Now you were wondering. Oh, I know. TJ asked if I can volunteer to do other things. I'm 66, and inventing is extremely exhausting work. It takes all of my time. I really don't have any time left over except for family. Mm-hmm. So I'm really sorry. I have to decline. I have to say that a lot because it's really exhausting work. And it's necessary because I'm able to do it and others aren't.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I understand. And so, we all have a full plate. We have lives and things to do. But we appreciate that you found the time to come to do 2 shows in a row, and that's a lot. And I know you're probably going to have to go get busy with your inventing and not be able to contribute as much. So I really value you coming here and contributing. So what's interesting, this article, and I'm going to pull it up again. It says, on November 16th, the U.S. House of Representatives joined the Senate in passing a bill that provides legal protection for space mining conducted by U.S.-based corporations that establish off-world operations. While most congressional members that passed H.R. 2262, U.S. Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness Act, may have done so with the impression that they would protect the rights of U.S. companies in future space mining missions. They instead have provided legal protection to corporations that have been secretly conducting such operations for decades. So these things are being passed now, in our Congress, this is 2015, so this was going on, and somebody knows what's going on, that it's bothering to go and pass these bills to a Congress that's probably naive on what's really going on. Wait, you got to go on mute. You're not on mute. We're getting a lot of background noise. Thomas, the Mad Painter, would you like to comment on this? Because this is shocking, actually, that they're passing these bills to make sure that their agenda's in place before we officially get out in space.
Well, I'll tell you, when you're spending, $300,000 to train a guy to run a mining equipment on an asteroid, you have to have some kind of insurance that he's going to actually be there, just because, I can see a certain amount of legislature needing to be passed. You know what I mean?
Right, but the people that are passing legislature don't have all the pieces of the puzzle.
They got no clue.
Really sure what's going on. They have no clue why they're passing this.
Yeah,
they just
so
go, okay, sounds good to me.
It's really the lawyers. Yeah, it's really the lawyers. I mean, they did it with the internet too, with this net neutrality laws and stuff. I mean, these people don't even get on the internet other than on their telephones to make a phone call. Yet they're going to try and regulate the internet. They got no real clue about it. So there really needs to be some sort of committee that has knowledge of what's going on in order to really, that really understands this. I mean, you got to admit, spending $300,000 to train an astronaut and then him go up there for a week and decide he wants to quit would really be devastating to a company.
Yeah. Well, I can remember I was at a J.J. Hartog thing back in 1994, maybe, and this woman stood up and she said, "Somebody help me! My husband's on Mars and they took him and he's never coming back." So I think a lot of these people
that would be slavery and not that would be slavery and not business opportunities,
Well, I think they might get, and like Laura Eisenhower says, she was given this attractive thing to do for her and her sons, but maybe Dan knows, are these people being taken off and made into slaves, and they're going, oh crap, it was a one-way ticket, and I didn't know what I was really signing up for. Dan?
Yeah, they, well, again, my 20-back service was off solar system, way out there. And so I don't have knowledge of these things here that have been going on, other than when from what I'm researching now. And you're talking about the great brain drain for one thing. Taking all of our top scientists and removing them off planet to get involved in the secret space program. And they're told one thing. They made promises and contracts are made with them, but then they get there and they don't keep any of their agreements, and then they have no way of suing because they agreed not to go to court and then to agree to a military tribunal. Of course, the military tribunals always say, well, no, you're wrong and the corporation is right. So that's the biggest objection, is that there's really no oversight for one thing, no recourse in courts of civil jurisdiction. And so they have a lot of complaints these people have made that are working in these colonies and specifically in these mining groups, that they're being treated like slaves, and they have no way of challenging the fact that they've been lied to, that they're not that the corporations are not keeping their agreements. I'm a perfect example. They agree.
See, that's why I was saying there needs to be a separate panel, not Congress, because Congress has got no clue.
Let me ask, area code 307, that area code was made in 1947. Area code 307, would you like to contribute? No?
No, they're just listening.
Okay, guess not. That was the original area code in 1947, like the CIA. Oh,
They might be
well,
listening.
They clicked off real quick. They said, "Never mind, I don't
What
want to."
do you think
so
of
I
that?
apologize.
Yeah. What do you think about what we were just talking about, TJ, about how people somehow agree to do these things, the brain drain? And I've heard this from other whistleblowers. They said, yeah, you wonder what happened to all those scientists? Well, they will tell your family you're dead. They will tell your family that, oh, sorry, we don't have the body, we can't do it, it was destroyed, blah, blah, blah. But these people are being taken off planet. Okay, tell us your knowledge. What do you know?
Well, the knowledge that I worked with was the people that I work with. We don't have any kind of agenda like that. They strictly observed. But what I did learn here in 3D world and in reality that we call reality in front of our noses was the story I heard was that they committed to work for the government and they would denounce all of their family, et cetera, to do that. So some people just disappear by choice. They sign their life away just to get to work with the Tesla 0-point energy or to work on something for the government. So it's by choice and by agreement. And Tom, I've been underground. There's not everybody that can work underground on special projects in 3D reality. You'd be surprised. We've had a lot of people working in Antarctica and Alaska and stuff. They can't do it. We've had tests. Tom ran one of the tests about people going underground, and they basically go bonkers. So it's not easy. But the government does train a lot of people, but they let them out every once in a while. So it's just those
they let
I
them
think
out
you're
every
talking
once
about.
in a while.
They
let them out.
They avow.
They let them come back alive?
I don't know, because it would depend on each individual, wouldn't it? I just happen to know what I know. But knowing something and then hearing something, alleged hearsay, unless, I have to testify I saw it with my own eyes, felt it, smelled with my own senses. But remember, I'm also a precog and a psychic, so remote viewer type. So I have to be very careful. Plus, I've died, so I have all these extra skills of, in and out of body, near-death experiences, by location. So I'm not your everyday person to be asking this. That's why I'm pretty much a hermit. I live pretty much alone in my own room and try to stay out of everybody's business, but I can't help it because it's all out there, and I'm supposed to be doing my mission, helping the world. So the people I worked with have already been there, done that, got that T-shirt, and they're allowed to come down and be humans and go back up and do their thing, But I haven't really told people that where they would believe my story or not. In one book, just boom, 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 it makes it too easy to read and too complicated at the same time. As you know, because most people can't follow me on my own radio show, and I'm paying for the damn thing. Back to you, Janet.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I really didn't see it, but, I'm your interpreter, and sometimes you just are, you segue. But then, we're doing this. You're bilocating. You're coming back. Come back to her. And I did that too. My husband pulls me back. We have these people in our lives that help us stay on track. And our show is like we're down to the last half hour, and I want to make sure we accomplished all our goals. So let's go back to our
goal. Yeah. Let Tommy say his goal.
Okay, go ahead.
Quick. He's been so patient for 7 years.
Yeah,
Tommy,
I just wanted to bring something.
Go ahead.
To bring something up really important that nobody in the United States talks about, which is probably more important than anything most people talked about so far. Early in the 1900s, Tesla was working with DuPont. They were working in New Jersey. In New Jersey, he worked with DuPont. When you go in,
Tommy, you're really breaking up, sweetie, and it's going. Is there anything you can do about that so we can understand what you're saying? It's better now. Well, now I don't hear you at all, so plug back in.
Yeah, we lost Tommy.
Tommy, you're still on. It's only at 30 minutes left on the show, so why don't you hang up and call back in? We got 30 minutes left. I can't hear him. I'm sorry, folks, but we're not being rude to him, but you heard I couldn't understand, and he was breaking up. I apologize. So Maybe he'll call back in a few minutes on another number. All right, back to Janet. You and Dan, me and Ahmad are doing our best. Ahmad, you feel complete on whatever she's talking about, or you want to go back? Tommy will call in a minute. I'll give him about 5 minutes to have his piece.
Oh, no. They're talking good.
Okay.
Yeah, so
well,
let's go back. We have like a half hour. Does anybody have a question to ask everybody on the panel?
Well, I just want to make one real comment here. I think it's kind of interesting that the only time that Tommy wanted to speak, and has nothing to do with you, that they nixed his question. So now it makes me even more curious as to what he wanted to ask. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. Hopefully he'll be able to call back if he can make his point. But, yeah, it's interesting. We had problems on all these
Calvin
shows
Parker's
recently.
on here, too. Calvin
Well, have
Parker's
Calvin say hi.
Hey,
Calvin, do you want to say hi?
He says he wants to set up a time when he can print it out. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. He wants to do it in the future. Okay, Calvin.
Okay,
we'll
set up a time for him to come back on.
Calvin
has an interesting story. He was like a Travis Walton. He was out fishing or something, and then he was taken or something. Yeah, he has a very interesting story. It's been a while since I heard it, but we'd love to have him back.
Pascagoula, Mississippi.
Yeah, we'd love to have him back on again. Tell him, Calvin, if you're listening, write to us at aquarianradio@gmail, and we'll get you on the schedule.
He's already given it to me. I've got it.
Get him on the schedule. Okay, good.
Fisher288 at Yahoo. Says
Don't
he's
say
sorry
that.
to
He
miss
might
my
not
call.
let that out.
I imagine he does. He's
trying
to sell a book right now. I'm pretty sure it's easy
cool.
to do. Calvin Parker, folks. Please look at his book. You can go to a friend of mine, Philip Mantle, in the UK, to Philip Mantle, but you just look up Calvin Parker on Facebook, and Calvin's got a great story, and I'm sure they'll make a movie out of it. But I don't know that it'd be long enough for a movie, though, but they did Travis Walton, though. But it's a pretty good story, 45 years ago. So Calvin Parker right here, Pascagoula, near Pascagoula.
There's been some new information come out about it. There's been other witnesses finally stepped forward after so many years. Janet's had him on the show, and so have I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so y'all like him?
He's a sweetheart. Oh, you'll love him. He's a sweetheart. So, yeah, pursue that. So, okay. I'm going to keep you the time. 3:32. So what do we want to cover in the last half hour?
Well, we got Russ Kelly coming on next Sunday. And here's Tommy.
I got a question.
Okay, you go ahead.
I got a question,
and then
Dan. It's kind of, given your state of intelligence, why do you think they used you as a super soldier?
They wanted to. They weren't able to enter certain areas, groups of solar systems that were controlled by different, one species in a whole bunch of different solar systems is a realm, and in the realms that are warrior realms, where they only resolve conflicts in ritual, duels, they wouldn't allow anybody into their space unless they would submit to a duel. And the first time the United States submitted their best fighters to a duel, they lost miserably, and basically they were told never to come back. So that's when they decided to genetically engineer and specifically train people specifically to go and fight those duels, just so that they could talk to those people and make alliances with them. And this is in many warrior races, many warrior realms. Not every advanced species is a warrior race. Actually, it's not a great percentage. But the United States did want to make alliances. They did want to go through their space, and that was what they found was necessary. The same thing happened on Mars, the exact same thing. That's where they originally learned they had to do that, and that's where the program came from, where they genetically engineered and specifically trained us to fight duels. Me. Other people were trained to do other
What happened on Mars? Can you elaborate? You said that happened on Mars.
The Martian reptilians, they're not Draco reptilians. And apparently there's like more. See, I have to take my information from Randy because I have no personal experience about Mars. But what happened on Mars, what Randy is relating to happen on Mars, is the very same thing that happened in many of the warrior realms that I fought in. And so Randy says that they insisted we fight to the truth. He said when we first came there, we saw them fighting like Romans with swords in groups, and it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense to them at all. And then they eventually found out that they weren't welcome. They actually said, "Well, we're gonna vaporize you all if you don't submit to a fight to the truth." And so we did, and the very same thing happened. We lost miserably, and then we were asked to leave. And they no, give us another chance, and we did. So they trained soldiers like Randy, and Randy was very successful at fighting the Martian reptilians in ritual, hand-to-hand. Well, actually, they did it with swords, same thing. They're very fond of staff weapons because hand-to-hand is a little too brutal, and the warriors are very important people in their society, and that's why they like a clean cut or a clean kill rather than brutalizing each other fist to fist. That's why they like the sword, to resolve it with a sword. And this is what happened on Mars, that we ran into a warrior race, a warrior reptilians, and they controlled Mars. They were the indigenous population that said, you can't stay here unless you're going to fight to the truth. The planet will decide if you can stay, is what they told us.
It sounds like Klingons. It sounds like Roddenberry brought that forth.
Yes, it's very much that they were relating what's like in a warrior realm. But they didn't actually relate it correctly. That they actually do submit to duels and they don't use technology, and they asked the United States asked and the Nazis did too. They asked the Martian reptilians, well, why? And they said, well, because we destroyed our planet using technology. This is not our planet. Our planet was the one that makes up the Kuiper Belt. All those little pieces running around the Kuiper Belt, that was our planet, and we destroyed our planet using technology. So we renounced it. And we don't let anybody come here that isn't willing to do that. Renounce fighting with technology.
Let me
we want to stay on Mars, so we submitted to their rules. Rules of engagement. Rules of engagement.
Each individual goes through their own spiritual path on the planet. We've got as many gods and as many religions as we've got, thoughts. Thoughts are faster than the consciousness and the speed of light. But I really want Tommy to have a say-so. But Tommy, I'm going to ask you real quickly because we couldn't even understand what was going on a while ago. But Paul Twitchell was in the Navy, folks, after World War II. And he married a lady, but he had a gift of words. So the Navy, like me, he was good in public relations. So he became he got hooked on Swami Brahmananda, who headed a self-revelation church of absolute monism in Washington, D.C. Okay, so he and his wife lived in an ashram or church, and he was actually born in Paducah, Kentucky, close to where I used to live, and he died in Cincinnati, Ohio. But Tommy studied Eckankar, which touching the face of God, 56, or Paul had experienced. And so I'm wondering, Janet, now I'm just going to throw this out there because he said that he was touched by the face of God in 1956. But Tommy studied under him to become the Mahanta, the living Ekmaster. Tommy studied all that because he lived in New Jersey and he met a woman that got him involved. But real quick, for spiritual enlightenment on the spiritual side, because here you have Dan living all this stuff, and people joined Scientology and stuff like that and became Eckankar. But we talk about the soul. But Tommy can input Tommy, I know you have a different attitude about aliens. Do you want to share with Janet and me just a little bit about the soul travel? Because Dan has his story, and we featured him. But you had a question earlier or something. Dan, you seem to be connected to Tommy about something, didn't you?
Well, there was two things. I know I can't go into the Tesla thing. I don't have enough time. But the most important story happened in New Jersey, and nobody can talk about it. They flooded a city Tesla worked with DuPont in an underground city in Wanacue, New Jersey. It became the vortex for the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia experiment. Very few people can talk about it. Tesla had in his notes he was working with a particular alien race. I mean, I could go on about that, but I want to get back to what you started to bring in because it's much more important about Ekankar.
Okay.
It's one path. He followed Sundar Singh. He went to India and studied under that master. He came back to the United States and created Ekankar in the United States. There's only two paths on the planet that teach you about soul, teach you about death, teach you about murder, teach you about angels and gods. If you cast that all out, you can cast out all history because every story is about deities, gods, and all these words. They were gods. There's no gods here. They were just people with power. And one thing I wanted to add to that real fast, in Jersey, they created 6 super warriors, actual warriors. They were 8 feet. They had blue beam eyes. They had superpower. They were created in the first army base in the United States, which is Picatinny Arsenal. They were taken into the battlefield. I don't know what they did with them afterwards. Now, when they talk about battles, it has nothing to do with spiritual, has nothing to do with God. If you play in the world, you play in the physical world.
Breaking up again.
I'm sorry, Tommy. It's so sad, Tommy, because
I don't know
I know you have
I'm sorry.
important knowledge. He does a lot of
I'm
research.
I'm sorry. Maybe next time.
It's broken up. Do you know why, Tommy? Is it your wire?
No, I use two different phones. I use my cell phone. Now I'm on my wireless phone. Maybe they're doing a lot in Hawaii. They're spraying the skies every night with chemtrails here. They're bombing. They're setting bombs up in the mountain. They're doing so many ridiculous things. We have so many earthquakes in the past month. There's a lot going on here.
You got clear
on
all
this
of a
island.
sudden. Are you sitting still now? Something changed, but now we can hear you if you want to try again. So you're very much a researcher of New Jersey and Wanacue and all the Montauk and the time travel. So you have a time travel story, and you saw a UFO. But
all right, let me just try to say this. Let me just try to say this real fast. In New Jersey, there's a city, Wanacue, New Jersey, where all witches lived. But that's where DuPont was working with Tesla. Tesla was working with DuPont. They flooded that city to put a bridge in between New Jersey and New York State. And during that time frame, there was all kinds of murders and killings. But Wanacue became a flooded lake. In that lake, for 9 months, UFOs were going in and out of it. The Army was stationed around it. I know that for a fact. My friend lived right where it was all happening. He got the picture of the first crashing into Wanacue. During that time frame, they tried to buy all the people out, which they had to do because they knew they were going to flood the city. Now, where Tesla was working, we tried to break into the steel doors that surround the mountains where he worked. That was when DuPont was in their fluid, which now they created a new one. But during that time frame, the government stayed there for 9 months, surrounded the city, surrounded the lake, while the ships were going in and out through the ice as well. We went to every library. We talked to all the police. We got every document. We were the only people doing it because nobody knew anything about it. But that was in comparison to, I was friends with Al Bielek and Preston Nichols, but Al Bielek was closer. And what was going on with the whole Montauk Project pertaining to the Philadelphia experiment, they're connected directly. And I can tell you a lot about that. But Preston Nichols went a totally different way. He was so many times. But Al Bielek, his stories are incredible. He proved certain things to us. He told us when they were going to kill him. He told us, okay, here's a date. And when he gave us that date, the whole coast went into a blackout from Canada to Florida. They never said a single word about that. See, that whole situation, when Tesla was working with alien races, when he created all this knowledge, he said it in his notes. The world will not be ready to use what I'm giving them. And he said they will not use it wisely, which they won't. They created the first earthquake machine in 1900, and they're using it now, and it's going to be a serious problem for the world. So, I can go on, but I don't want to take the topic away from I feel the spiritual side of life is much more important now than killing people, fighting people, because if you even accept the idea that there is a God, you're actually responsible back to it. And if you think killing people, I tell you, was with his master. We went into the astral plane. He wanted me to kill all these aliens and stuff. Can't do it. And watch them go into these cities and destroy them. There's very few people on the planet.
It's breaking up again. It's really hard to hear what's going on. So you're saying that something about Tesla. So Dan, are you working with Tesla technology?
No, I reinvented it.
Okay, but it's the same things, or some of your inventions are the same things that Tesla brought to humanity.
Yeah, that technology hasn't been revealed, so I essentially had to reinvent it. So nobody handed me that technology. I had to reinvent it.
The United States took 50 Tesla. They gave 150 to his country. Those inventions pertain to the doomsday weapon, HARP system. I mean, time travel. All those things came out of Tesla's knowledge. When he was working on free energy for planes, he worked on the engine for the first plane that flew across the world. I mean, he was way beyond any person alive at the time, but it wasn't his technology. I mean, it's not like his brain suddenly knew all this stuff. He was working with a particular alien race, which gave him all that. And they're responsible for what's happening to the planet, and it's not going to be good. I mean, 5G is coming out in a month around most of the United States. It's going to take a while to hit Hawaii, but that's only the first step in destruction to the planet. Now, do you know Nick Baggett? He worked on the HARP system. He was the first person to put a video site up many years ago. They shot his father down in a plane.
Nick
Baggett. They killed his father. No, they killed his father. They didn't kill him. Nick Baggett put his site up. It's up still today. He's pretty rich. So, but he was on with Jesse Ventura. He showed a little sound machine where they can project sound or any thoughts into anybody they want, which is what they're using the HARP system for. Went inside the White House and talked about it inside the White House, and they admitted it. So Tesla had so much knowledge, but it was created for a reason. And people have to understand, why would an alien race give us such high technology? Make us smarter, make us spiritual?
They never found his body, so some presume he's still alive. I don't know if he is.
What, Nikolai?
That's a good story, Nick Baggett.
Whose story? Nick
Controlling
Baggett?
the human mind. Yeah, Nick Baggett with the HARP system and all
of
that. That's
Nick's
good.
Still alive. His father was shot down in a plane.
Oh, his father. Okay, so he's the
father,
eldest
not
son
him. He's alive. He's rich. He's living up in Alaska. He's doing quite well.
Okay.
He was just on with Terry Cassidy last week.
Yeah, that's a good story to follow up. HARP and the mysterious.
It's really hard for me to make out what Tommy saying because the connection is so bad. Can we kind of?
Look, I'm sorry.
It's just really bad, and it's giving me a headache.
No problem.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Bad connection.
That's
all right.
Bye-bye. Later because. All right, I'm sorry. That's rough.
It's not your fault, Tom. Not your fault, Tom. Thanks for contributing.
Yeah, it's not your fault, but it's like really.
I feel sorry for him. I feel so sorry for him. Bless his heart. He tries so hard and wants to contribute. And he always seems to have some type of conflict. He's going through a really hard time, folks. So, if you can listen to Tommy Hawk's Blood or get in touch on his YouTube or channel, please do so. He's going through a lot of problems right now. People next door, house burning up, and he's having a lot of confrontation in his reality. So we go through conflict. It's not fun. I've been going through a little myself. So just, that's another reason, Gene, and I wanted to have friends and keep doing the radio show because some people need us. They need our social support. So, it's nice to feel like we're doing something, but it's also, it's sad that I don't know if you say we need it, but we do need each other. And Dan, can you say anything about that? I know I'm mad. I can, but why are we helping each other with this stuff? Because everybody's got their own story and their different level. And that's what I mean by levels. Each person has their own level of intelligence or their own level of what they're interested in. We say they've all got their own soul path. In other words, you can't force, what they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That was sort of Janet talking about why are some people, sort of deaf to the 3D reality. You want to talk about that at all?
You're asking me why, what my motive is in wanting to save humanity from global warming and slavery, industrial slavery? Let's see. I have children and they have grandchildren. That should be simple.
Right.
My children have children, and I don't want them to be subjected to global warming or industrial slavery.
So let's talk about what I did get was Tommy mentioned the 5G rollout. Dan, what do you know about that, and how is it going to affect humanity? Is that the final act of enslavement? The 5G that's apparently coming very, yeah.
You have to explain what you're asking me.
What I'm asking you is, what do you know about it, and how? So the stories are out there that it's going to totally enslave and mind control humanity, and that's like the final enslavement of humanity, and we're just going to, we start dying off, and it's going to be totally negative and deleterious to our health and our spiritual evolution and our consciousness and everything. That's some of the stories that have been going around. What do you know about it?
No, I don't understand what you're asking.
I'm just asking what you know about the Tommy. What I heard him say was that he was talking about the 5G and technologies are going to be rolling out very soon here. I guess it's coming up much faster, and nobody's been able to stop it. People have been protesting it because of the stories that it's going to totally enslave humanity. Okay? Matt Painter, have you covered this on any of your shows about the 5G technology?
Not really. Now, I have studied a little bit about the 5G, and it originated from a weapons aspect. If they're using it for a weapon, I'm not sure. Really, most of what's going on is driven by big business looking for your money, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Not trying to wipe out humanity. So, I mean, I've had 5G for almost 6 months and have no problems with it, other than the fact I think it's not as good as normal internet.
Oh, it's not as good.
I don't believe it is, no. I have no choice. We either have 5G or you don't get internet here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know enough about it, but it's supposed to be a lot of stink about it being negative. But I can't even find anything negative about it. I just heard bits and pieces. I haven't paid. 5G viewed very critically by scientists. Let's see if I can. It's a serious health impact to the fifth generation. Okay, I'm pulling up an article. Sorry about that, but I had heard about this, not paying attention. I thought it was years down the line. It says antenna in every 12 houses is batshit insane. I'm skeptical of being implemented in the first place, but apparently it is being rolled out, and you're already doing it. So, are you able to sleep at night? Are you starting to glow, Mad?
I've had no problems.
Are you
now.
losing
We
your
have
mind?
had a host. I've just been gone for years. We have had one host that had it in her house, and she got real sick, and she took it out, and she's fine now. So, I mean, some people are sensitive to it, from what I understand.
Yeah. So It depends on the level. People are saying it'll pass right through you, and some people are in fear of. We're always in fear of everything we don't understand. That's common. It's human nature. So you just have to look into the building blocks that you deploy. And if you're a really good light being, and you believe in spirituality, maybe you can not worry about it passing through you, because it's not going to go away. So you might as well get used to it, just like all these other things. I think at the time back with AT&T, if we'd known what was coming back in the 80s, we wouldn't have let people do what they did. And that was told to me by guys that were telling me firsthand that they were laying all the stuff down for what we have now for cell phones. In other words, Big Brother. So once Big Brother was accepted, and we never talk about that because we're using it right now. So everything is known, everything is seen, and everything goes through us. I do feel a little different, though, about things. I believe it gives people more anxiety for those that are listening that do feel like there could be a concern. You just have to be aware that everything is energy, in a way of speaking. That's what this concern is about, is what damage does it do? Just, we'll just have to look at that. It's all technology. So the big thing is, even 10 hours ago, that 6G's coming, but will that destroy humanity? So, Dan, you're not up on the wireless technology, apparently, right? You're not keeping up with it's sort of like the HARP system. I remember when Tommy was talking about the spraying for communication or whatever. Dan?
I couldn't make out what he was saying, most of it, because it was just so garbled. But, yeah, they're concerned that it's going to be invading us at every level, and they're going to know everything we're doing and thinking, and when we take a pee, and then one of the concerns is that it's going to, it'll start buying things for us that we won't even know. And DNA damage, ionizing radiation, cause cancer, so anyway, that's what their concerns are, and who knows, they could want us all die off by the time we're 50 because, we're not as big of we're not as valuable, right? So they can't get as much money when they sell us off planet, like Dan was saying. Hey, we're running out of time. Let's maybe wrap this up. Final round. What would you like to say? Let's start with Dan. What would you like to say to our listeners?
It's kind of interesting. Like TJ was saying, everybody that went off in the secret space program, all the scientists, they volunteered for that. They did sign papers for that. They just didn't. They just were lied to, and they had no recourse when they got there. They actually signed and said that, well, even if things go bad, I'm okay with that. So they all agreed. They volunteered that, and that's pretty much what they're doing here. Is they want everybody to be under stress, both physically, medically. A lot of stress medically, so that when the aliens come here, your new slavers that have already bought you, when they come here to get you, you're going to volunteer to go with them because they're going to promise you 300 years of life and perfect health and pristine planets, and it's not going to be anything like this, and you're not going to have to suffer global warming or radiation or 5G or any of that thing. So those things are being done, chemtrails, those things are being done intentionally to stress people out so that they will volunteer to leave.
Great.
Go ahead. And as far as mining, I've known I'm sorry. Go ahead. Whoever. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Your turn. Go ahead, TJ. Go ahead. Your turn, TJ. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that years and years ago, a long, long time ago, I was reading, when I was doing quantum entanglement and quantum physics with some various high physicists that, we were conversing about the future, bringing out the slit theory or, how to explain the quantum entanglement. But at that time, I was reading, now I just have this in my head, but mining I thought was done back after the 60s with the Apollo missions. So I have a part of me that believes that we never quit going to the moon. So I know about the Tompkins story, and I know that my husband's story working at NASA, and Ken and I are talking. So we may put together a situation that maybe the mining was always going. There were certain things there from I thought the Chinese were mining, and I thought different companies. I thought it was Russians and the Chinese and us.
That's not the public program. The public doesn't think. The public story is that we never went back. That no man has walked on the moon since which Apollo mission. But
so that's unexplained. So folks, yeah, I don't know where I read all that, but it's not like I know it. But it was in my psyche already because of the elements. It was after element 115 back in the 80s when I was going in and out of Vegas. Because people doubted Lazar, but me and my husband was like so relieved finally because we'd been working in it since the space program in '85. What was that, Star Wars or something, Ahmad? Do you remember when we got involved with the Navy and Reagan and Star Wars? Anyway, we look it up.
Reagan had the Star Wars program.
Yeah, so I know since '85 we were doing the mining, and but the Star Wars was to help us.
Where were we doing the mining on the moon since '85?
We had chemical. We had certain minerals. We were mineral mining, and there was a space race.
That wasn't the official story.
Well, that's what I don't understand. So I have to be careful because I was working on things. But remember, I'm a psychic and a precog. So sometimes, but I know what I read. I read these things. But then I read a lot of manuals.
Well, it wasn't a public thing. If you go for the public story, we haven't been back to the news since the early, yeah.
Well, let's do this again, folks. We're sorry if today was not sort of an upper and a downer. It wasn't as full blast energy as we were yesterday, so it is hard to do a 2-hour back-to-back. But we do Thursday and Friday anyway. Well, thank you, Janet, and thank you, Dan, and thank you, Ahmad. We're going to do this next Thursday and Friday, too, and I may even start doing Sundays because some of our guests want to come on, and we're getting people that really do feel like they want a voice and work with our UFO Association, Janet, so and our Alien Contact Org. But now remember, I've still got the Ascension Center, and you've got the network for our spiritual side, which we started with metaphysics. And then has Dan got to work with Dr. Rick yet? Rick and Dan? Dan would probably enjoy doing a hawk. Tommy. I think Tommy and Dan, because they were both dark warriors. Oh, you haven't, Dan? You haven't worked with Rick or Tommy yet, have you?
No, he did work with Dr. Rick, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe sometime you can get, just if you want to do a show for Dan and Tommy to do a dark warrior thing. So, because Dan may appreciate the soul level of the Ekankar people, because it was military Navy. Dan may find a strength of sharing a story in there in the secret space program, right? That in the what did you call it? The ICC. Real quick, Dan, was it the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate?
Conglomerate. Yeah. Okay. Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. Basically, a bunch of all the U.S. aerospace companies.
Oh, okay.
Well, TJ, I hate to inform you, but we're out of time.
Okay, baby. I don't mean maybe, but my BFF. Okay, BFF.
I know you probably baby.
All right. Well, yeah. So, okay, Ahmad.
Okay, I'm baby.
Yeah, you're baby. Okay, I talk to my kids. Ahmad. How do we get out of this now? Do you want to help me next Friday with whoever?
TJ scheduled with Janet. She's pretty good about giving me those notices. I'm not trying to make her my manager. She just really does a really good job.
I don't mind doing that. Yeah,
she's done that for 7 years.
All right, I have to go. Thank you, everybody. I have to go. I've got somebody coming to see my apartment. So
thanks, Thomas.
Much love and blessings. Thank you, everybody. Aloha. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Ahmad. All right, everybody.
Have a good
one. Thank you,
Okay,
Matt. I
bye-bye.
really appreciate your help. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully we bring you something later. We didn't have music at the beginning, so maybe we can play a little to get out of here. I don't know if we can or not.